I would like to, first of all, mention one important thing, which is, I think, is really very important, because I'm traveling in all the Armenian communities all over the world, like from Iran to Russia and Sweden and US. And what I see is that even very, very informed people are not that much informed what's really happening there. Even those people who are participating in the cause, or even they are advocating for the Armenian cause, they are not really familiar with the real situation on the ground. So I'm very sorry if I'm gonna say very basic things, but it is important for me to understand that we are speaking the same language. So what we have right now on the ground, before 2020 war, we had like officially two states. One of them was not recognized, Republic of Armenia and Republic of Artsakh. Together, they were consisting around 42,000 square kilometers. And actually, it was like one state, though officially it was about two states, but in fact, it was about one country. I was educated, I got my education in Belzor with the Armenian curriculum, using Armenian language, with the, let's say, using Armenian drum, which was not there, but still. And we were doing actually the same which was being done at that moment in Vanadzor or in Armavir, anywhere else. So, and Armenia was an important geopolitical factor in the region of South Caucasus, and more largely in the Eurasian continent. Sometimes when I say this, people look at me strangely, saying that Armenia, a small, tiny country, what it can do with the Eurasian continent. But it did a lot, because having an army which is capable of doing independent or conducting independent security policy, it means that you are already dictating some new reality on the ground. And not many countries are capable of doing that kind of stuff, even bigger countries. And Armenia was one of those countries which was dictating the reality on the ground with this 42,000 square kilometers. Because the Artsakh Republic's borders were being kept by the Armenian army. And it was a factor on the ground. So the major change which happened after the war, after the declaration of this trilateral agreement, or it is correct to say capitulation actually, after this capitulation, we have unprecedented situation. And the most important indicator of this unprecedented situation is that we don't have sovereign army anymore. Not because we don't have resources, but because the official government, the de facto government of Armenia, said that we don't need that anymore. And in 2 years, what we are witnessing is that we are putting the security assignment of Armenia and Artsakh not on our own army, not on our own resources, but rather we are somehow delegating this issue to other countries. And this is quite like becoming a country like modern day Syria. What I mean, if you are familiar, are there Syrian Armenians here? If you're familiar with the situation in Syria, you probably know that no border of Syria is being protected right now by Syrian forces. It is, in some part it is Turkey occupied, in some part there are Americans, in some part there are Russians, Iranians, and many more, but not Syrian army. So in many senses, Syria is not a sovereign country anymore. Yeah, there is a government which controls the internal life, but Syria is not dictating, or at least at the moment, Syria is not dictating its own power on its own territory. Now what we are witnessing in Armenia, it is the Syrianization of Armenia. Previously, the border was kept by the Armenian forces. And we had an agreement with Russia to keep the border with Turkey through the forces of Russia, which is actually, I mean, officially it is Russia, but the majority of Serbians, they are Armenians. And all the other borders, and the most important border, which is actually a front line with the Republic of Artsakh and the eastern part of eastern front line of the Republic of Armenia, was under Armenian, let's say, army control. Now, the whole eastern border, eastern front line, which became 5 times larger than it was before because we lost the territories. Now, the control of this border is being gradually delegated to other forces, like European Union Monitoring Group, international forces, or something like that. Which is a bad thing for a country, because if you are not keeping your borders and you are delegating that task to another country or another state, it means that at any moment you can lose that. I mean, at any moment. And no matter whom you are gonna blame for that, no matter what you are gonna say after that, the most important thing is the result is that you lost your border. And now, I mean, Armenia is for already 1 year, or actually even more, is officially declaring that Azerbaijani armed forces occupied some parts of the Republic of Armenia in Syunik, Vayotzdor, Gegarkunik provinces. But now actually nothing happened. Yeah, Azerbaijan occupied the Armenian territory. Okay, Armenia condemned that act. Many other countries also said that they are very, very, very unhappy with the situation. But in fact, on the ground, Azerbaijan already occupied some of the sovereign territories of the Republic of Armenia. Not disputed Artsakh, but the UN recognized international territory of the Republic of Armenia. And if I had a map, I would show you those territories. I will send it to you so you can easily check it. And this is, by the way, what you said, it is very important to know about this, because you will never find any map prepared by Armenian government which shows what we actually lost, not only in Artsakh, but also during these last 2 years in the territory of the Republic of Armenia. So whenever I'm showing this map, I showed this map, for example, in Orange County, and when they saw on the screen this map, and they said, like, really? Armed forces of Azerbaijan are that close to, for example, Gelmuk, or that close to the city of Kapan? They are too close. And at least in the last 2 years, in the territory of the Republic of Armenia, again, not Artsakh, we have at least 300 square kilometers occupied by the Republic of Azerbaijan, which means that we have around 15 villages, totally or partly depopulated. Imagine if this happens in, for example, in 2015. I mean, how many articles will be written about this? How many, rallies will be held on this, against this? Now, if I ask you to show that villages and that territory, those territories on a map, probably, with all due respect, majority of you can't show that. And nobody can do that, because state, which is the sole responsible and the sole, let's say, capable power to share that knowledge and to mobilize our own resources to somehow protect that, it is, instead of talking about that, announcing about that, mobilizing, they are doing just the opposite. They are keeping that information out of the public domain. So what we have in reality, it is that there is around 3,000 square kilometers left out of the Republic of Artsakh. Sorry. The yellow part. It is around, as I said, 3,000 square kilometers, with the capital Stepanakert becoming a border town. Those of you who have been in Shushi, they know how close it is to Stepanakert. Now, Shushi is under the Azerbaijani occupation. And imagine that you have the 1/3 of the population of Artsakh right under a rifle attack of Azerbaijan. We have more than 30,000 IDPs and refugees, internally displaced people, from especially Karvajar, Kashatagh, Hadrut, and Shushi regions. And just to tell you a sad story, nobody talks about the rights of these people anymore. Nobody. I mean, nobody even remembers them. But they are still living in absolutely terrible conditions without any real possibility to, let's say, restore their own lives. Nobody is doing that. We have absolutely no possibility to independently develop Artsakh without outside support, because all the agricultural and other infrastructure which is required for self-sufficiency of any country or any region. Now we lost that, not because of the occupation, actually, occupation by the Azerbaijani army during the war, but rather because of the agreement, which was the capitulation agreement, which was signed in November 2020. Just to bring you one example, before the war, in the whole territory of the Republic of Artsakh, we had more than 30 hydroelectric stations, which were producing electricity not only for the Republic of Artsakh, but also sending that electricity to Syunik and Bayazur Marzes. So Artsakh was self-sufficient in the sense of electricity, and it was providing electricity to the regions of the Republic of Armenia. Now, we have only 2 hydroelectric stations left in the territory of Artsakh, which are providing very, very limited amount of electricity, which is currently the sole source of energy in Artsakh because of the blockade, which continues already for more than 65 days. It is, if I'm not mistaken, 68th day today. So currently Artsakh is in blockade. And the only guarantee of the Armenian presence in Artsakh are the Russian peacekeeping forces. And of course, I know that you are going to have questions about this. So imagine that you don't have any possibility to not only move and to meet, for example, your relatives, like me, but also you don't have normal electricity, you don't have gas supply, you don't have telecommunications. Actually, this is a Nazi concentration camp without gas. And more than 120,000 Armenians currently are in this concentration camp, and we are watching this online. Absolutely online. I mean, you can see what happens. You know that, they are dying. At least 10 people died because of the lack of medicine. Children are incapable of getting the required medical support. And this is, actually a genocide without guns and, knives, but genocide. and look at the discussions in the Armenian world and in Armenia as well. Absolutely nothing about this. Or just a small, let's say, talk, and then we're passing to more important questions. But this is number one priority for Armenians, because, as I said, more than 120,000 people are currently in this situation. And this is very important to understand, because the same, actually, will happen with other provinces of Armenia in case of continuous Azerbaijani attack. It is, I know that this is too small, but, well, I can pass it to you so you can look at it. As I said, in Syunik, in Vayotzor, and in Gegarkunik, three eastern provinces of the Republic of Armenia, we have currently Azerbaijani occupied territories. Occupied territories which are currently under the control of the Azerbaijani armed forces. And the bad thing is that this is not going to be somehow, the end of the story. Because when we combine this with the official rhetorics and actual policy by Azerbaijan and Turkey, we see that the reason for their the reason for their continuous attacks on Armenia is not Artsakh anymore. It is the geopolitical goal to eliminate the Armenian political factor from South Caucasus. When I say this, many people are saying, oh, Noran Tashnak mi yekav. Tashnak chen, unfortunately. But I'm a person who is studying Turkish foreign policy for more than 10 years, and Azerbaijani foreign policy as well. What I see, it is clear geopolitical interest of Turkey to eliminate Armenian political factor from South Caucasus. Why it is important? Not because, Turks are like sitting every day and thinking about Armenians and the Armenian state, but rather because for Turkey, for a regional power, South Caucasus bears huge importance. It's an important, critically important region or sub-region in the Eurasian continent, which provides gates to other regions of Eurasia where Turkey has critical interests. In other words, if you control South Caucasus, you have access to Turkic-speaking territories in the Russian Federation, Turkic-speaking population in Central Asia, Turkic-speaking population in northern Iran, and actually you are becoming a regional superpower. Now, imagine that we are sitting not in San Francisco, but rather in Ankara, and we are not ANCA, but TNCA. Are we gonna, let's say, not implement this policy, which is possible to give us, which will provide us a lot of resources and will make us a regional superpower instead of just a regional power? If you have a possibility to become a country which controls, influences so many sub-regions, thus becoming a real player on the geopolitical arena, should we, refuse this just because, this is 21st century, Armenians are beautiful people, and we don't want to commit a genocide again? What's the normal option for that? Normal in real life, not in the, let's say, illusions of some outdated liberals. Of course you're gonna do that. And now you have absolutely great opportunity to implement that policy actually without committing, on the paper, without committing any genocide, or even not conducting a real scale war. Because what you have after 2020, and after this assignment, of this capitulation, you have only one small strip of land, which is the Syunik province, 40 kilometers which is the only obstacle on your way of controlling or of having direct border with Azerbaijan, which is fully under your control. And then, I mean, going further into Central Asia, into Southern Russia, into Northern Iran. 40 kilometers, small piece of land, which is currently not being protected by the Armenian armed forces, which are the most interesting part, or should be the most interesting part in this, but rather by Russian and Iranian forces. Iranian forces on Iranian border. Remember, 2 years ago, Iran brought forces under the name of military drills to the region, and they are still there. And Russian actually presence in Sunni province. Those of you who are a little bit familiar with military and, let's say, war, they know that to conquer this 40 kilometers, it is how many hours it is going to take? 3 hours. Okay? And imagine if it is coming from two sides.
Hour and a half.
So, I mean, you don't even have time to just run away. And they are declaring this. President Aliyev, only recently, I mean, I can bring many volumes from his last 2 years speeches. When he is talking about the Republic of Armenia, he says that there is no Republic of Armenia, there is only Western Azerbaijan. In one of the recent talks, he said Zangezur, which is Sunni province, Gyoycha, which is Lake Sevan and surrounding regions, and Yerevan, probably you know what is this. Yeah, Yerevan districts are our historical lands. In any other country, in any other case, this is a casus belli, which means a reason for war. Not in our case. In our case, we have, as an answer, peace agenda.
Democracy.
Yeah. I'm sure that there will come a time, this is Aliyev, not me. I'm sure that there will come a time when our compatriots from Western Azerbaijan, their relatives, children and grandchildren, will return to our historical land, to Western Azerbaijan. I'm sure, again, not me, Aliyev, that this day will come. I'm sure the Western Azerbaijanis will return to their native lands with great desire and enthusiasm. Armenia was never present in this region before. Present-day Armenia is our land. West Zangezur, which is Sunni province, aka Sunni, West Zangezur is currently under Armenian control. But as a result of the construction of the Zangezur corridor, of course, we will use this corridor to return our citizens to their ancestral lands. This is only from one speech. Check all his speeches in these 2 years, and you will have absolutely the same rhetoric on this highest level possible. This is also being, in different ways, repeated on Turkish side as well, with the words of, again, on the highest level of Erdogan and other people. So, again, probably many Armenians think that this is only words. But actually, as I already showed you, not on the map, but I described you the map, Azerbaijani forces in the last 2 years, they're attacking those territories which are being considered as Western Azerbaijan. So you have policy declared, you have policy in action, which is occupation of the Republic of Armenia, not disputed territories. So what else do we need to understand that this is a real program and real aims of those two countries neighboring to Armenia? And there is no other alternative than just to be prepared to, somehow prohibit this expansion. And when I'm saying somehow, it means by army. But what we have in reality, again from the already Armenian side, or the Republic of Armenia side, we have constant talks about peace, constant talks about possibility of an agreement with Azerbaijan and Turkey, opening relations, starting, as we call it, CDBD, which is just love relationship. And then, according to the official government, the official rhetoric in Yerevan already, there will be no war. And Azerbaijan will take its forces out of the Republic of Armenia. And Armenians in Artsakh will live under Azerbaijani control with all the rights. This is the official rhetoric. I'm not kidding. I know that it's strange to say in an Armenian event, but still, this is the official rhetoric of the Republic of Armenia. And unfortunately, this is being circulated among all the possible Armenian, let's say, societies and public in general. That, guys, everything is gonna be okay. We just need to handle some things to Turks which they really demand, and then everything will be finished. And I know that a lot of very, very patriotic Armenians, very patriotic Armenians, they believe into this thing. Unfortunately, this is not gonna happen. Because remember, before 2020 war, when we were discussing these kind of issues, and usually we were discussing Artsakh, I don't remember any case when we were discussing Sunni's security. Because it was a nonsense to discuss Sunni security. Because we know, I mean, when I'm saying we, I mean general public. We know that, okay, the case is about Artsakh, so probably we'll make some concessions to Turkey, to Azerbaijan, we'll set up an agreement, and after that, we'll have peace. Okay, Azerbaijan got everything that was, being asked, actually, more than. Now, we have problems on Sunni, and we are talking about the occupation of Sunni. And, do we have a right to think that this is gonna be continued in case we handle Sunni as well? And this is gonna reach Yerevan. And actually, full political elimination of the Armenian factor from the region. When I'm saying Armenian factor, I mean Armenian state. Sovereign Armenian state. And people, of course, being manipulated with this simple thing, that if there is a paper, nothing will happen. No war and no attack will happen. And this is the official rhetoric. Just today, the de facto Prime Minister of Armenia said again this. That we're gonna sign, I'm gonna take responsibility for new agreement, for peace agreement, and then we'll have no problems. But actually we'll have. And the most, let's say, easiest counter argument for this thesis is that, for example, a very beautiful country like Cyprus has all the agreements and has all the papers, but it never prevented Turkish army of occupying and keeping occupation of northern Cyprus for already more than how many years?
50 years.
Perfect. 50 years.
74.
An anniversary. Yeah? Next year. Anniversary. No paper, as I said, prevented Turkey from attacking northern Cyprus, which is actually much more Europe than we think. It is in the center of, let's say, Mediterranean Sea.
European Union.
It's European Union, but it's never prevented. Because if they have possibility to implement a policy which is in their own interests, then they are gonna do that. But this is not the only example. Again, mentioned Syria. From 2016, officially, Turkish armed forces are occupying 3 Sunni provinces, territory equal to 3 Sunni provinces in northern Syria, with the clear aim of turning the territories into something like northern Cyprus, providing state infrastructure there, changing the demographics, and many other things, which are clear signs that they are gonna stay there, not for, let's say, 2 years, but rather for another 15. But Syria is also not the only example. Let's look a bit, let's say, to east, and we'll see another country, Iraq. Again, officially, with all the papers, with all the agreements, Iraq is a sovereign country. But in the northern part, we have a huge territory which is under Turkish control, with all the papers. And I can continue this. The problem is that nowhere in the world, even in San Francisco, and especially in the Middle East, there is no such thing as an agreement. Agreement is just constatation of the real politics at the moment, but not the cause for real politics. If you have a power, you're gonna implement that. And no paper is gonna stop you. And it's strange that we still believe into this childish, very naive picture of a world where there are papers and papers decides fate and future of the people. Because it is very strange, not only because this is very naive, but also once we had already encountered this kind of stuff in the recent history, and there was a very famous man whose name was Harimian Hayrik, who was believed, he was sure that there should be agreement, and with the agreement we'll have all the rights and all the issues resolved. But then what happened? He saw that it never worked, and he said that our meal, we shouldn't use paper, how we call it, sherep? The ranits, yes. We shouldn't use that. We should use metal. I mean, it's a metaphor for saying that we should use guns and power rather than this. At the same time, there is a propaganda, again in the Armenian world and in diaspora as well, here as well, even here in San Francisco, in California, that guys, don't compare a situation of like 100 years ago and now. This is 21st century. Nothing like that happened in 21st century. No blood, no, genocides. And imagine like Kurds sitting there in Iraq and say, yeah, no genocides, of course. Or Arabs like in Syrian occupied territories are saying, yeah, of course, no genocide. Or Cypriot Greeks are saying, yeah, of course, no genocide, but it happens. Yeah, no genocide happens, and so we should not think in the categories of 19th and beginning of 20th century. There is no pan-Turkism and this kind of stuff, and we should be happy with the agreements signed. This is a clear manipulation, clear propaganda, which is being made in the Armenian world, not only by Turks, but also by Armenians, by Turks with the Armenian surnames. And we should clearly understand that this is a clear manipulation aimed at eliminating any possibility of resistance of Armenians, which really understand the real Turkish threat. And this is very, very important, this part, to bear in mind. Not because Armenian people are not clever, not because Armenian people are not patriotic, but rather because the level of manipulation, the scale of manipulation currently is absolutely unprecedented. And it is being made by the Armenian faces. That's the problem. Because for Armenian, if something is coming from Turk, it is a clear red flag. But when there is a propaganda from a person who bears Armenian surname, you are thinking, okay, maybe he should be a pro-Armenian. She should talk about Armenian, think about Armenian interests, not vice versa. So, and just to finish this part and go to the questions, I can say that this is true. I mean, this manipulation and propaganda stuff is true for every other topic right now in the Armenian world. Every other topic. Starting with Artsakh up to even economy. Because it is very, I know, difficult to understand, especially from here, but you can't really imagine the scale of the propaganda machine. It's really a machine which is brainwashing Armenians, both in Armenia and diaspora, on every topic which is of critical importance for us. Because when we look at the real opinion of people, which is possible to do only through public opinion surveys, this is the only instrument we have to somehow understand what in reality people think. When we're looking at these public opinion surveys, they show us that for the vast majority of Armenians, I'm saying about 90% and more, Turkey is totally considered as a threat. So Armenians know that Turkey is a threat. They are against handling Artsakh to Azerbaijan. 98% and more. They are against of this. They are not aware of what's really happening there. And I will bring one example. And of course, they say that we are ready even to fight. We are ready to, go to war to protect our rights. Thank you. So one example, I love this example very much. I have the numbers. So after 2020 war, 3 months later, when everybody again was talking about war and the consequences of war and the results, and even our heroes were still not buried. So 3 months later, the research which was conducted by a scientific group in Armenia to understand the real public opinion showed us absolutely incredible results. Incredible. Որքան են կազմում հայկական կողմի տարածքային կորուստները? How much territories we lost in a war? So 2 months later, actually. This was done in the end of January 2021. So November, December, January. Correct answer, only 35% of population had the correct answer. 35%. Imagine, large-scale war, everybody's busy with that, everybody knows that. Almost every family has some connection to war. But only 35% knows what happened as a result. And other 65%, they said, we really don't know whether we lost anything or not, or they know that we lost less than it was in reality. So when we saw these results, we conducted more research. And what research again showed us? The same numbers. And then we started to analyze why it is so, how it can be. And then we found a direct correlation between the media they consume and the answers they give. So for the majority, the reality was being constructed by the propaganda machine, which is saying that nothing serious happened in Artsakh. We didn't lose that much territories. And, absolutely, again, incredible thing, now we're much closer to the better future for Artsakh rather than before the war. Yes. What I'm saying I can prove with all the diagrams I have with me.
Why would they think that?
Because the machine, propaganda machine, is saying just the same. Even with the de facto prime minister, who said in November 2020, after the war, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2020, November 22nd. He said that տարօրինակ բան պիտի ասեմ, I'm gonna say a strange thing, բայց մենք հիմա Արցախյան հարցի լուծմանը ավելի մոտ ենք, քան որ առաջ ենք. We're more closer to the solution of the problem than it was before. And then, ճիշտ է այն մյուս իմաստով, ոչ իր հայանապաստ. Yeah, but the whole machine, the propaganda machine, distributing this idea with different formats, with different messages, but the same message actually, different package, I think. With the different package, they are disseminating this in the Armenian world. And what we have as a result is that till now, for the majority of Armenians living in Armenia, it is unacceptable to have Artsakh inside Azerbaijan, but they don't really understand the real policy which is being conducted by the de facto government. Because the de facto government, what it is doing, and which is bringing anger to our type of people, because we are like digging, we have new sources which are not a part of this propaganda machine. For these people, there is no problem. Because according to the machine, everything is great. Artsakh's rights are being protected. Artsakh is living absolutely wonderful situation. I will tell you one small secret. After 2020 war, on state television, there is a law, internal rule, let's say, that it is prohibited to show sushi on public television. Yes, you can show sushi on the Armenian state public television, because sushi is not Armenian anymore. So when you are showing sushi, you are recreating the image of sushi in public opinion, and people can ask, where is sushi? But if you are not showing that, with all the daily problems, you're forgetting about it, because the public opinion is being constructed daily. And I know a person who was fired from public television because once he tried to show sushi. Second beautiful example again. Remember last year we had the Dimadrusan Shahru? You remember what was the, let's say, official cause of the Shahru, of the movement? It was the declaration by the Pashinyan that we are gonna drop down the level of Neshazo for Artsakh, so that Artsakh is part of Azerbaijan in reality. And this was the, let's say, trigger for new movement on the streets. When we had conducted again research to understand how many people knows about this, let me find it.
How many people knows about what?
How many people knows that Pashinyan met with Aliyev and Charles Michel, where they said that Azerbaijan actually, Artsakh is part of Azerbaijan. Okay. Only 47% of population of Armenia were informed about the fact that there was that kind of meeting. 53%, they were not aware of this. So if you are not aware, you don't know what happened there. But also, if you are aware of that there were such kind of a meeting, it doesn't mean that you know what happened during the meeting. So the percentage of the people who knows what happened and what Pashinyan said, even less. And instead of that, the propaganda machine is bringing other types of news, and I'm gonna read some of them. I'm gonna show one of them to you. Հրատապ լուր։ Գետաշենը հանձնվում է հայերին, ողջ ազգը ցնցված է։ Շուշիի գաղթի վերադարձը հենց հիմա։ Ողջ ազգը սրան երկար սպասեց։ Shushi is being handled to Armenians again. Yeah, the whole nation is waiting for this. Nobody has seen this. Armenian soldiers are blowing up Baku. Դիմավորեք Արարատի հրատապ հանձնումը հայերին.
I've seen all of this on Facebook.
You have seen this? I can show you the numbers of how many people watch this kind of stuff.
Fake garbage.
This is being called bullshit news in the academic wording. Another example. Մենք ապշել էինք Նիկոլի ելույթից, Պուտինը անկեղծացել է։ Սկսվեց, Նիկոլը նոր հեղափոխություն կանի, Պուտինը սարսափած է, Putin is afraid. And my favorite, I should show you this.
Liev ով է ներգա։
This is Biden.
Oh,
Սևանալիչ։
Ես կլողամ այդ լճում, Բայդենը վերջնական որոշում կայացրեց Սյունիքի հարցով։
these are being generated by the government?
Now I'm showing you an example, the screenshot from the page of Nikol Pashinyan, official page, where he is sharing the same bullshit news. And there are several journalistic investigations which approved that all these media, at least they have connections with the government, or they're being run by the government. And if you look at the amount of the news consumption in Armenia, this is a huge diagram. I know that it's impossible to view on this scale, but I mean you can easily find this. If you look at this, you see that around 70% of the whole YouTube traffic in Armenia, 70%, is about this kind of news. I know that this is very, 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 very strange, because you think that how people can believe in this kind of stuff. But this is a technology which is being actually researched here in the US, by the way. As I said, this is being called bullshit news. This news, they are not creating information for a consumer. They are creating perception. And they are taking this with the amount. Because when you hear from 10 different types of media the same message, you have a perception that everything is really okay. And something beautiful is gonna happen. Of course, people don't believe in the fact that I got a screenshot from today's news in this kind of media. This is from today's screenshot, from one of the channels called Perfect TV, which is, by the way, the name even, creating perception as well. This is, I mean, in 3-4 hours ago, it was published. The last one. Հսկայական կամուրջ է կառուցում, անի քաղաքը վերադարձում է հայերին. A new bridge is currently being constructed, and the capital of Ani is being returned to Armenians. Sorry?
Are you sure they're not hackers?
No, I'm sure they are not. And we have many examples of this. Many, and we have the actual numbers. How many people consume this kind of news? These are millions of views, dear friends, millions of views. And if you compare these numbers with the numbers of our media, national media, starting with Yerkil media up to, I don't know, name it. This is not even closer to that. So that's why we have a situation when Armenian people living in Armenia, they are paralyzed. They don't know what to do because they see that there's something happening. They are not able of, let's say, understanding what's happening in reality alone, because I mean it's very difficult to do that when you have so much noise around you, news noise. And you are, I mean, what you can do, you should believe that probably yes, everything is great and Ali is being returned to Armenia. And the last thing to finish, to open the floor. Imagine if you are living in the remote village of Giliza. Have you been there? It's one of the most northest, let's say, villages in the Republic of Armenia, Georgian border. I have been there. It's a beautiful place. Imagine if you are living in, for example, in Giliza. From the early morning till night, you are working somewhere in the forest, in the field. You are tired. You are having a very difficult day because it's difficult to work and to earn money. You are coming back to home. Before reaching your house, you met the local school teacher or local government representative who told you that everything is great. Imatsar,
Lava.
Gamurje, Shinelen, okay? There's a bridge and Ani is coming back. So you are saying, oh, okay, yeah, it's bullshit. You are going back home. After dinner, you are opening the television. Out of 10, 9 out of 10 channels are pro-government right now. Because no national Armenian TV is being broadcasted in all the territory of the Republic of Armenia. The last one was Yerki Media, which is cut as well. So you don't have that. So you have 10 channels, out of them 9 are saying the same message with different, again, package. You are saying, okay, here we have the same. Enough. Artsakh, everything is okay. Anin is coming back. Ամենում եղավորը ռուսներն են, Բայդենը լողաց սևլջում. So everything is great. If you are, an interested person, you're probably opening this. You are entering to the social networks and you are seeing the same. With, let's say, much more, independent coverage. Again, the same message. You are already sure that this is reality. If you are a bit more interested person, you are probably opening the last one, the only one, the only opposition channel. In the end. Because the whole messaging was about that those are challenges. Okay. But probably you are interested, you want to know more. You are opening this channel, and a person like me, or any other opposition member, is sitting there and saying that ժողովուրդը թավաջան է, ժողովուրդը ասե, անե, երգիրը չի սիրել, they don't love their country, that's why they support Pashinyan. And he looks at me on the screen and saying, Kohene Doing this, that's Spanish. Komar, you're sitting with your suit, beautiful, we're talking with different and difficult worlds. You never met me. You never comes to understand what really happens with me. You never protect my rights. You're never contacting me on any issue. And you are saying that I'm a Tavajan? Tavajan 2 years. I'm going to support him because he, compared to you, is reaching out to me. Yeah, of course he has many problems. But nae, anin veradars. And this is the story. This is the story. And I tried also to answer to probably the question that hopefully you're gonna ask to me. We should work with our own people. Because the only power comes from the people. And when I'm saying that we should work with the people, I'm saying also here in the diaspora. Because many are being influenced by those who are watching the same news here. and transferring that news back to, for example, Giliza. And a villager in Giliza is saying, «Ահբեր, բարեկամը Սան Ֆրանցիսկոից էլ այդ նույնը ասում։ Իրանք կամուրջներից գլուխ հանում են, իրենց մոտ շատ կա»։ And that's it, it's ready. So we have a problem that the Armenian population they are in the noise, they don't know what to do. There is a government which is definitely not supporting the Armenian rights, because at least they say that Artsakh is not Armenia anymore. And they are like sending humanitarian aid to Turkey instead of sending that to Artsakh. So we have the problem of the government, and we have, we are sitting and discussing these issues already for 2 years without any result, because we are not solving the real problem. The real problem is that we don't work with the people. 20 or 30 people are right now sitting here, we're aware. Do we work with others without blaming, and putting so much effort in this? No. Instead of us, that is what is being done by Pashinyan and Turks. Constantly making propaganda. Constantly dividing all the organizational, structures which are capable of organizing any resistance, both from the level of information and on the ground. Look at the Armenian diasporas all over the world. And as I said, I am traveling with my friends, with our group. We are traveling a lot. What we see, it is constant attacks at major and most powerful Armenian diaspora organizations, because they know that these organizations can be centers of resistance, even outside of Armenia. In November 17, 2020, Turkish parliament held an official session to commemorate the victory in Karabakh. And they prepared a statement on this issue. And imagine that everybody was happy, they were celebrating. But in that situation, even, one of the members of the ruling coalition had a statement that we should continue our fight against Armenian revanchists and nationalists, because they are not, their issue is not done yet. And there are two organizations especially which should be targeted by us. You can find this on the website of Turkish Parliament. The first one is, they mentioned Kilikya Gatolikosin, Aramarachin, policy of Cilicia, եւ երկրորդը Armenian diaspora organizations. So even in that moment when you already got a victory, a huge victory, you are still thinking of eliminating those structures which can bring back situation to the one we had before 2021. And that's why it is very important to understand that the front line of the Armenian interests is not actually there, but actually begins here. Because whenever they manage to divide you here, or to eliminate you here in Iran, in any other diaspora community, they already managed to cross one line. And that line comes to then back to Armenia.